Good morning and very hearty welcome to all the preceptors here. Thank you for coming. There's a lot to be shared. We'll go in depth with so many topics. The most vital aspect of our journey is journey, spiritual yatra. Often we are not able to decide where to begin the journey. That requires some aspect of sensitivity. In order to even understand how the journey begins at various levels, we have to understand how this actual flow also occurs, flow of energy. Transmission is forceless force, but it ends up creating ripples in our system and follows a pattern exactly like the electric current. How does the electric current move? Perhaps most of you are familiar, but those who are not, there is a positive and there is a negative. It goes like currents, in the form of waves. Babaji also talks about the currents descending from the source. They are not descending in straight lines. They are also following the same positive and negative pattern. This pattern itself ends up creating a field at each point. And when something moves from one point to the next, immediately next, what generally happens there is invertendo. This is again Babaji's discovery. The principle of invertendo, he has broadly described it in two books, Efficacy of Rajyoga as well as in 10 Maxims. You must have read about point one. He says, let's divide this point one into two. Based on actuality, what really happens there? There is an upper region and there is a lower region. Upper region has slightly better level of consciousness. The lower one doesn't have that much of consciousness. It does have, but it is not as refined as the upper level. Journey is also begins within the point, upper region and lower region. Now what happens because of this positive and negative flow? Whatever is upper at the point one becomes lower at the point two. And what is lower at point one becomes upper at point two. And this will continue. Now it will go lower again. So, point 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, all odd number points will have upper region as upper, lower region is lower. While in even numbers, at second, fourth, sixth, eighth, and 10th, the lower region will be in the upper part of the chakra. You follow me? I'll draw it for you so you understand. So let's consider these 5 points of the heart region. What I was trying to share is when you divide this first point, it becomes upper part is upper, lower is lower. That is simple. But when you look at the second point, the direction changes, this becomes L and this becomes U. Same thing happens here. This really doesn't matter. You get it now? Okay. And so Babuji was able to describe the sixth point, and you will divide it like this. This will become lower and this will become upper. And he has taken up only these 2 points in the books in order to describe the principle of Invertendo. Whatever is there on point 1 is in Invertendo fashion on point 2. So with this basic understanding, we move on. That when we do clean point A and B, even if you are not vulnerable to the idea of sensuality, etc., nevertheless, it will help us move further into state of superconsciousness prevailing at A2 and B2, A3 and B3. Extent to which points are cleared of A and B, to that extent, upper and lower region of point 1 will be cleared up, cleaned up. To that extent, superconsciousness at other higher points will also reflect. All the points in our system, people say we have only 13 points, but in reality, we have 16. We don't make mention of the lower three chakras, nevertheless, they are present. You can't avoid them just because you don't touch them. We don't touch them in the beginning, no doubt, but towards the end of the journey, it is mandatory that Master will ensure the journey within Manipur, Swadhisthana, and Muladhara. Only then there is completion. In the beginning, it is not touched at all because of the dangers associated with these lower chakras. So these lower chakras are present also in animals. Dogs, cats, elephants, and horses, all animals, they do have these points. Only in human being, Anahata chakra becomes more active. But if we remain focused on the basic animalistic tendencies, then we remain glued there and we don't rise above Anahat. There is also a great amount of confusion or lack of understanding. We are not able to tally the regions like heart region. We also call it as Pinda Pradesh, mind region. But mind region is very vast, within which there is Brahmand, there is Parabrahmand, there is Prapanna, Prapanna Prabhu and Prabhu, and then the central region. Then we have these points, chakras. On top of that, Babaji complicates the whole thing with 23 circles. And we fail to understand the relationship between the circles and regions and points. Mind you, we have not gone into kosas as yet. Also, I like to share with you something alternate method of measuring or locating the point A and B, which I think all of you know. Babuji has described it in a very fantastic way of measuring two fingers this way, left to the right, left to the left nipple, and then go three fingers down, that's point A, and then two fingers down is point B. But while we were releasing this book, Heartfulness Way, the publishers in United States, they, they were not abhyasis. They are not abhyasis even now, but the editors' final editing was done by ladies, sisters. They found it very interesting topic, but they found it very difficult to locate it. They say, is there any alternate method? I ended up praying to Babuji Sahab and I was guided. And based on that, we have come up with alternate way of locating point A and B. Even sisters cannot find it any difficult anymore. So we will begin with, I would like to call this presentation as Spiritual Anatomy, Journey Towards the Center. So this is from the 23 circles. We begin with stages of Maya, where there is so much of duality, opposites prevail. 5 circles belong to 5 points, each individual. First point, you can confidently say it is in the first circle, second point in the second circle, third, fourth in fourth, fifth in fifth. Now, let's understand. Some of you may have heard the discussion between Babuji and one sister Abhyasi from Denmark, where Babuji is saying that he made one sister Abhyasi cross 64 points. Have you heard these remarks? Then we wonder, where from all these points coming? He describes only 13, but that was when he wrote the book in 1948. Later on, sometime in late 50s and 60s and 70s, he continued to make more researches. And the outcome was not 64 points, but 65. But in one case, he was able to travel that sister up to 64. 65th is awakened only in one case. Okay. So now, we have to understand at each point, one of the Panchabhuta will predominate. You'll come across this description in Lalaji's dictations in autobiography, which we'll touch now and then. Autobiography of Babuji Maharaj has a lot of secrets. If you read carefully, every single day, whatever messages are given, there is a method, there is a technique, there is a hint. All these hints are how we can move forward. At times he criticizes his own disciples, at times he punishes them, at times he rewards them. And it's a nice way of looking how his heart and mind is working. Once we know how he understands us, then it is easier for us to cooperate for our own betterment. So in one of those messages he says, in the heart region there are 5 points. First point is the point of the heart. It is dominated by the element Earth, Prithvi. Then he said that's not the only element present there. The other elements also, but in a smaller amount. If Earth element is present, which I have reflected in this diagram as yellow color, but the other elements are also present, starting with the red, which is reflection of ether element, and also it reflects the quality of the second point. Third point is also reflected here. If you see clockwise, here, the first point, the red colored mark is in 12 o'clock position, which is actually the second point. At 3 o'clock position, there is fire point described here, depicted, or the fire element. The black represents the water element, and the green represents the air element. So all elements are present. Now, when you combine all these elements and point A and B, according to him, it constitutes 7 subpoints. Circle number 2, here it is dominated by the ether element, which is depicted as red color. And we actually feel that also when we are exposed to second point, when it blooms and opens up. We see the red tinge within ourselves. Or when transmission is given by the preceptor from the second point, generally, I don't say all the time, but generally, Abhyas, you would also feel the reddish tinge within. Here, at 12 o'clock position, it reflects the quality of the next point, just as we saw at the first point, the 12 o'clock position was reflecting the quality of the second point. At the second point, the 12 o'clock position of the next element will be of the third point. So all the elements are also present, but here at second, the space or the ether element will be dominant. Now this reflects 5 subpoints. So now you can say you have actually traversed through 7 plus 5, 12 subpoints. So these 5s and 7s are the journey within the point. Okay. The third point, in the third chakra, in the third circle, that also has 5 elements noted, but dominant element here is fire element. 12 o'clock position is reflected here, which is the next point's quality, which is water, reflected by black color here. So this also represents 5 subpoints. So that will make our journey complete to the extent of 17 points. So likewise, it goes on. The next will be 5th. Okay. One interesting thing I like to share is, while we are at the first, heart is all about, it's though it gives satisfaction, etc. But in the present day condition, I would say, majority of us, we go through turmoil. Only peacefulness you'll find is while arriving at the second point. Similarly, the third point, when we come to the third point, nature bestows us. When we cross this troublesome third point to the next point, which is fourth, which is more peaceful. At number three, we have roller coaster ride, emotional roller coaster ride. See? But the moment you come to the fourth, there is immense peace there. It's exactly like what we feel, so much of peace at second point, unlike the restlessness that prevails on the first. So nature at subsequent points gives us a break, some sort of restful hours. Now once we cross this, we enter these stages of egoism. It's all about me, mine, and my doings. Here, at the sixth point, there is A1 and B1, plus the quality of the main element, other four minor elements. It was 27 before, now you add 7 more, there will be 34. Cosmic region or the Brahman Mandal is restricted within the sixth circle. Parabrahman is restricted within the seventh circle. By now we have crossed 39. Now here the beauty, I mean, you must have seen this in this magazine where we have described spiritual journey, that at the seventh knot, or behind the seventh knot actually, there's Chitta Lake, there's a Saraswati point, as well as there's a point of passion. Passion and knowledge, they're inseparable. They're so conjoined. Working on one will have a ripple effect on the other point. Trying to destroy passion point will destroy your receptivity towards knowledge. That's why most intellectuals are quite passionate at sexual level. It reflects, seventh knot reflected paracosmic, eighth knot is about prapanna state, where the feeling of surrender starts. By ninth point it matures and we become eligible to enter from this admixture of prapanna and prabhu to state of prabhu. Again, if you see here, there is A to B2, which reflects the 10th point. The D, as is the efficacy of Raj Yoga, or the first point of the heart. The cosmic region, it is D1, Bapuji calls it as D1. In the center point of the cosmic region. D2 is the center point of the godly region, where from the state of Prabhu begins. Going further, we enter the 11th knot here. So we have now crossed 661. By 12th knot, we crossed 64. If you notice here, there are only 3 elements present. Ether, water, and fire are present. Air and earth element are missing here. That means we go beyond this earthly existence. We start feeling that we don't belong here in reality. It is one thing that when you're in trouble, when your heart is broken, and you say, "What am I doing here?" See? But here in reality, you feel that I really don't belong here. I'm not of this world. I share with you one of my personal encounter with Babaji Sahab. This was my last visit to him in 1982. He whispered very, very gently, and he said, "I have stopped feeling the earthly vibrations." I have said this in another context. Perhaps he was hinting, my time to go has come. But it also, I understand that it's not that he entered the 12th point then. He had always been feeling like that, perhaps. From the very first day itself, I don't belong here. But all these things, all these qualities that we encounter should not be mental fabrications. It should become actual inner experience for us. Now begins the real adventure. The 12th point is also a kind of a bridge. Just around the 12th point, there is this Brahmarandra point. Now, this Brahmarandra is the point through which the soul enters the body after conception. And for liberated souls, they exit from the 12th point. I would request you to refer Truth Eternal and read the chapter on destruction by sound, where Lalaji describes how soul escapes the body at the moment of death, how each chakra collapses and dissolves into the next element, next chakra. Now, when our journey has come up to the 12th point, the tendency of the soul would be to escape. Job is done, kind of. But it's the discovery of Babaji Maharaj that he does not allow that thing to happen because much lies ahead of us in a spiritual way. By now, the godly region ends. It will be surprising to a lot of people. If godly region ends, then where are we going? Is it beyond God? I leave to each one's experience and I pray that all of us somehow make it there. How he does it, he says there is an arc, curved arc, sort of a curved window at the 12th point, which we cross and enter the central region. This entry point, according to him, is called Satyapad. Entering all these rings and having actual journey is beyond description. There is no force there. There is no effort there. It simply happens. That's why transmission that arises or descends from the center itself, we say it is forceless force. Moment whenever we apply force, there always is a ripple effect in opposite direction. These ripple effects will not be there once we start swimming towards the center. Now, if you permit me to say, crossing the heart region into Brahman, one actually goes beyond the individual dualities imposed by these Panchabhutas. They're very heavy. Here we have tried to depict these five elements present in the heart region, slightly darker color, dark green, dark uh, red, dark black. But as we go into the Brahman and Parabrahman and Prabhu and all those, the intensity of these elements is shown here with uh, lightness of color to express that they are there, but for the namesake. And how can we go beyond these troubles of opposites, the war within, created by these opposites, pairs of opposites, by remaining generous to our heart? Generosity, not of money, but forgiving, allowing things to happen, acceptance. All these qualities will automatically flourish in our heart. But if our tendencies remain to go against it, then we won't be able to enter the Brahman Mandal. Person who cannot forgive, person who always remembers the woes and pains inflicted upon them and they want to take revenge, you can forget about Brahman Mandal. Though so many states are bestowed upon us by Master in an Akashi fashion, means in a reflected way. That means it's not our own earning. It is like, leased property. You are there at the grace of the landlord who doesn't charge you rent perhaps. But if you misbehave, it dissolves just like that, see. But if we make our way through our own efforts, cooperating with masters, then magical thing can happen, then there is no fall. Otherwise, there is always a fall, even from the level of Mahaparshad, which will come across in autobiography. Some of you who have heard Chariji, that Mahaparshad cannot fall, you will read something different with a lot of proofs in autobiography, which I'll be referring to so often from evening session onward. So if you don't have autobiography with you, I recommend you carry them with you throughout this preceptor session. A lot of researches and discoveries that he had made are written there. Some of the sentences which are there, I'll ask you, the whole paragraph you read and say, what is the research here? What is he trying to convey? You can't pick up. 90% of the time you will miss those methods, you will miss those hints. It requires a different orientation, how to read these messages from the Brighter World by Lalaji and other great saints. And when we move from the cosmic region to godly region, what is required there is utter humility. It also shows lessening of our ego. Pride is now dissolving. Only then one can enter the godly region. See? And from this godly region into central region, it depends on our relationship with the great master, how well surrendered we are. Only that thing will determine our entry there. So far I have talked about how we can progress at individual level. Three qualities which I have described, and it will form a kind of a repeating story in autobiography, how humility of Babuji, how his generosity and how his state of surrender contributed to what he became as a special personality. The other things, I think, if just for interest, we will go through this slide, which is quite self-explanatory. You see here, this Z, it forms a triangle between 7 and 8. It is, let us say this is 7 point and this is 8 point. You go 1 inch inside your forehead, actually, 1 inch inside, and then draw the line. That's where Chit Lake is present. See? Okay. As Babuji says that Chit Lake in most people is grey in color, greyish, but in advanced cases it becomes reddish to kind of ruby colored, within which there is a point of Saraswati superimposed with the passion point. Brahmanandra is generally where we keep choti, uh, shikha. There is one easy way also to figure out where the center is. You know where this pierce the ears? Here. You just draw the line this way, that is the center. And as decay, you just tip of these ears, you go up like this, and you point to, that is as decay. And you put your 4 fingers there. This is the 10th point, and the back is the 11th point. So few points are just, you can even in your sleep can figure it out. But best would be to fill it within and say, oh, 9th point, and close your eyes. You visit that point and meditate there and see what happens. The qualities will come. This means the environment or the condition prevailing at that point will reflect within us. Okay. Now, some exercise for you all. I know you come from many centers all across India as well as abroad. These 5 days, I would like you to have this simple exercise. Each day, let us see, you recollect one abhyasi from your center. Put that person's name. Okay. Tomorrow, you pick another abhyasi for tomorrow. Write down the name. Third day, another name. Fourth day, another name. Fifth day, another name. See, you fill up these 5 names for yourself. Try to give them a sitting in absentia, means you don't inform them. Today you give to that person whose name is there. Tomorrow person is somebody else, right? Third day somebody else, fourth some. So likewise you give a sitting. Then when you're giving sittings, you try to find out how that person's condition is, his position and approach. While you're busy with this, today you're busy with one case number A. Tomorrow you'll be busy with case number B. Third day you'll be busy with case number C. Now what you do when you're busy with case B, you include case A also. When you're busy with case C, you include A, B, and the new C. So likewise, it will be cumulative. By the time you leave from here, you'll be able to work on 5 different persons at the same time. Then this number can also increase. It has far-reaching consequences than you can imagine. I will show you where this will lead us to. Remember this movie, Karate Kid? He is fighting with his master. Every day the same exercise. I wish you see that movie once. But the same exercise saves his life one day. This has far-reaching impact. Also, I would like you to learn, which I had been doing for many years actually, even I would say it goes back to 2003 or 2004. On my own, it came to my understanding that sometimes I should breathe like this. See? Generally, we breathe one go, right? Like one long and then you exhale. Inhale and exhale. But while we are inhaling, you break it into 2, 3, 4, or 5 parts, like one go. You understand this much? Okay. It's like from here up to here I have to breathe, right? So I'd go like that. Do this for 3, 4 days. I'll teach you the significance of it on the last day. Just remind me so I don't forget it. This Karate Kid thing and this breathing thing. Okay. This will prepare us for a very big thing actually. Very big. It's nothing ordinary. Next few days, if you can fast, it will be nice. Those of you who can, it's not mandatory that everyone should know. If you like it, have a light meal if you cannot fast. But those who are diabetics, please be careful. I'll be back here at 5:30, and we'll take it up, reading few passages from Autobiography of Babuji, 1944.